I had a list of a cast of thousands that are here to thank you all, but instead of boring everybody with a million names, I'm just going to say thank you so much for being here. It means a lot. We're going to have a short program. Kathy's brother Bill is going to come up first and talk about her childhood and early years, and then Kathy's daughter is going to come up and talk for a while, and then I will come up again and talk for a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over to my niece, who has a written thing that my sister wanted to convey, and then we're going to open it up to anybody that wants to come up and share a memory or make a comment or whatever. You're welcome to come up at the end, okay? And I'll swallow it, and then it'll sound better. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So, Bill, please. So I kind of
You have a star I can stand on or something?
yeah, right here. You're close.
I got to be under the lighter. I can't see my note.
Yeah, I did it.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. As Steve mentioned, I'm Kathy's much younger brother, Bill. My older brother, Mike, is here. He said if he had to speak, he'd throw up and leave. So I think we're all better served if that doesn't happen tonight. What a beautiful testimony, not only to your appreciation for Kathy, but your love for Steve, for so many to come here tonight. I want to especially give a shout out to Steve's Marine buddies. Thank you for your service. We really appreciate it. And after all these many years, that you still stick together shows you what you guys were all made of.
Right.
The early years for Kathy, my mom and dad were high school sweethearts. They were in a class of 12 at Bath High School, a little town just south of where we live now. We came up this morning from a town, Havana, Illinois, about 4.5 hours south of here on the Illinois River. And so we made that trip up here. We were poor when we were young, but we didn't know it. And so I know a lot of folks grow up that way, and that's a good way to grow up. And we had a beautiful life. We lived on a farm where my dad tried to farm about 200 acres of rented ground for about 10 years early in our lives before I was born. They were graduated in 1948. They got married in 1950. Kathy came along on July 1st, 1951. All three of us were born while we lived down there on the farm. Some of my best memories are from there. I doubt if my mom and dad would share that because it were really tough times for them. But we had all the love that you could imagine in a household. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of things. I don't remember this real well, but I've actually got photographic evidence of Kathy and Mike trying to drown me in a hole where we were playing with some things. I don't think they meant it badly. I just think they wanted to see what would happen. And I survived, so it couldn't have been too bad. So that was cool. The farming didn't work out quite so well. So in 1961, we moved to Havana. Kathy was in the 5th grade at that time. I was just starting kindergarten. One of the best things about her educational experience, she actually went to a one-room schoolhouse called Blackjack School down where we lived, about a mile from our house, grades 1 through 8, and great basis for an education there. When we moved to Havana, my dad went to work in the factory. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and then she had to go to work too to make up for some of the difficulties on the farm. One of my earliest memories from Kathy's rock and roll history was, some of you remember the date, February 9th, 1964. That was the Beatles' first appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. Now that also happened to be my 8th birthday. I had no idea what all the ruckus was about. I thought we were going to have a really good party. Turned out it had nothing to do with me. A bunch of the neighborhood girls all gathered around our little, probably 20-inch black and white TV, screaming, and I didn't know what that was about, but soon learned that the Beatles were quite a thing for these young ladies. And so that was a good memory that we had from that time there in town. So I can pull out my note here so I don't forget some things that I thought was important to say. Our grandparents lived about a mile from where we grew up, very precious to Kathy and to all of us. And we got a little precursor of Kathy's honoring us after my grandparents passed away in their house was going to be abandoned. Kathy and my mom and my daughter broke into their house and rescued a rocking chair that belonged to our great-grandmother. And we still have that chair today because of their thievery there. So that gives you a little bit of an indication of what my mom and Kathy were like when they got together. They were legendary shoppers. And when Kathy it was bad for Kathy to move that far away from us and to live so far away, but it made the times that she came home so special. And we did so much, and we squeezed so much into such a small amount of time. Our family likes to drink, and we drank a lot, we ate a lot, and boy did we have a lot of fun when she was back. And they could shop from dawn until dusk, I believe. I didn't get to go on the trip to New York City, and I think I'm kind of glad. I think they've changed Times Square permanently.
Yeah, they did.
My brother had a little car trouble on the way up. It even made me think of Kathy, and she would have so appreciated this because she rolled with the punches so well. It didn't matter what happened, what kind of a crisis there was. No big deal. Let's have a margarita. We'll figure it out, and let's keep things going. She was home for a visit one time, and this was around 1990, and I was driving her back to St. Louis, just her and me, and the water pump went out on my van. No big deal. We walk up the interstate, and there's about a 10-foot fence that we have to somehow navigate. We climbed over the fence. First I went over, and then Kathy bailed right over the fence. We walked and got help and got things taken care of. So that made me think of that when we had the little bit of car trouble today that we had coming in. We also loved having surprises. And one of the tricks that we like to do is fool my mom. We had Kathy fly in unknown for their 40th wedding anniversary. My mom almost died that night because of the surprise that she had. We did the same thing for her 80th birthday. It's hard to believe that was 40 years later. But we were all gathered in a room much like this with about this many people, and the only one that couldn't be there was Kathy. And this was after the advent of cell phones. So we hooked her up by cell phone. Little did my mom know, Kathy was right outside the door instead of way out in California. And she walked in the door still talking on the phone. Once again, we almost lost her again that night. Any of you that knew Kathy know when she was around, there was never going to be a dull moment. It was always about fun. It was about life. It was about having a great time. I hope some of you know what a wonderful, compassionate caregiver she was. When she took care of someone, and it didn't matter if she was doing it professionally or if it was when my dad got sick with cancer, she was going to make sure that things were done properly, things that were done compassionately, and every level of care that could be given was going to be given. And that's one of my favorite memories of her. She was so passionate about that, even though she was such a fun-loving and caring person. And even after Alzheimer's had kind of robbed her of much of herself, her last trip to Havana, we went to the Mexican restaurant in town. And I didn't even know this till the other day when I was going through pictures. Kathy didn't have a lot of expression later in life, but as she's taking pictures sitting there with Mike and myself, one of the pictures I came across, and Kathy's there like this. Just like that with her tongue sticking out. So even though she had been robbed of much of that, she still had that flair. And the funniest thing that night was she wasn't supposed to drink a whole lot then, but she did get a margarita about the size of a fishbowl. And we were having a good time visiting with one another. And Kathy didn't have, well, maybe she never had a level of self-control, but perhaps in many ways.
Why were you looking at me?
She sucked that whole margarita down just like that, I guess, because it was there. And she looked up and she had this kind of blank look on her face, and she couldn't talk real well by that time, but she just said, "I'm drunk." Might be one of the best memories I will have of her in all that time. So usually it's fitting at a time like this, when you're doing a remembrance, that you would have a moment of silence to recognize the person who's no longer with us. I can't imagine a moment of silence being appropriate for Kathy. There was never silence when she was around. There was rarely sadness. There was always laughter. There were always smiles and things of that nature. One of the things that happened when my dad was sick was Kathy and I talked a lot on the phone. And she and I talked a lot about her faith during that time. It's something we hadn't talked about a lot before. And because of Kathy's faith, yeah, she died a few days ago, but Kathy's not dead. Kathy is much better off now. The ones that are hurting are us, because we'll miss her, and we should miss her, and it's okay to grieve. But Kathy's faith has kept her alive. not just figuratively. She is alive figuratively in our memories and in the things that we will always think about with her, but she's also alive literally today. She's in heaven before her Lord Jesus Christ, and that was the most important thing in her life. And because of that, we can rejoice. But let's not have the moment of silence. Let's raise a glass to my sister, Kathy.
Thank you, Bill. Feedback. Thank you, Bill. Well, if we're going to come second or third or fourth after Bill, we're in trouble. But thank you a lot, Bill. Thanks for sharing those memories. I had one thing before I turn it over to Sherry. Where is? Oh, it's right in my hand. No wonder I can't find it. No wonder I can't find it. I did want to acknowledge Lisa, Kathy's hospice nurse, for the last year and a half plus, coming over 2 times a week and letting me torture her with questions and, you know, how do I do this and how do I do that? Without her, Kathy would not have been with us as long as she was. So,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And Christine unfortunately couldn't make it. With Christine was Kathy's caregiver for 3.5 years. Actually, just about 3.5 years. And it allowed me to get out of the house and go grocery shopping and run errands and go hang out with friends and go have dinner and get a beer once in a while. And so she's not here, but she was, without her, I would have been climbing the walls, I'm sure. Okay, Sherry? Sorry.
Apologies. Hi, everybody. I'm Sherry. I'm Kathy's daughter, her only child. The stories that her brother Bill tells are true. I was there for most of them, at least later on. The climbing of fences, the thievery, it was all true. I witnessed it. It was fun times. What he said, yeah, fun times. Never a dull moment with my mom. So I'm gonna read, I wrote a few thoughts down just about her and who she was in her life. I'm gonna read it so that I can get through it. So thank you all for being here. Like Steve's Marine Corps buddies, also, again, shout out to you guys, to the family that drove up, car troubles, my husband who flew in this morning, my children, Maddie, our middle daughter who's at home. She's in nursing school, so she's tied to that endeavor at this point, but we miss you. So again, thank you all for being here to honor my mom. For those of you who knew her, she was an example of compassion, love, kindness, and integrity. Those lessons that she taught me will be with me through my life. My mom was someone who always put others first. Whether as a nurse, a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mom, she devoted herself to serving others with a selflessness that was unmatched. She gave everything she had to make others feel seen, heard, and cared for. Her work as a nurse wasn't just a job, it was a calling. It was who she was at her core. And I'm grateful to have had the guidance watching her care for others in her life, as Bill mentioned, for her own father as he went through cancer. Sometimes at her own expense and her own well-being. She taught me that love wasn't conditional. That the most important thing we can give each other is our attention, our time, and our empathy. She also taught me the value of integrity. If she said she was going to do something, you knew she would do it, no matter how hard or inconvenient it was for her. That's something I'll carry with me forever. She kept her promises, and she made sure that the people around her knew that they could always count on her. I'm sure you've all experienced that. Her influence didn't stop with me. I'm proud to say that my children, her grandchildren, have also chosen to follow in her footsteps. My middle child, as I mentioned, Maddie, chose path in nursing, inspired by her grandmother's example. And my other 2 children, Rachel and Brennan, were influenced by her kindness and her dedication to others and chose careers that focused on serving and caring for others just as she did. I know she would be so proud of them. Her legacy of caring for others is woven into the fabric of our family, and I'm so grateful for that. To her grandchildren, she wasn't just grandmother, she was Bida. The name thought up by my oldest, Rachel, when she was about 2 years old, sitting on the steps and said, "Bida, come." And my mom walked over and sat next to her. It was a term of endearment, and it was uniquely hers. My children are blessed to have known the depth of her love, and her memory will live on in their hearts. Mom, you will be missed more than words can express. But I take comfort in knowing that your love is never really gone. It's in every kind thing we do for each other, every promise we keep, every moment we spend with the people we love. Thank you for everything you gave to me, to your family, and to everyone who knew you. I love you and I always will.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Sherry. Okay. All right. I just want to briefly go through a few things just about me and Kathy's history, and then bring up. I'm not going to probably be able to make it if I make it emotional, and so I'll try and probably be the technical guy that I am and stick to the facts, I guess. Me and Kathy met initially in 2001, in June of 2001. I was living in Temecula, California, and she was in San Diego. And I had known Sherry, her daughter, for a long time before that, because my sister lived down the street from them, and my sister and my niece Vanessa is down the street, and Vanessa and Sherry went to high school together and were very close. And so Sherry was over at my sister's house all the time. I go on vacation, there was Sherry. She was always around. But I never met her mom until years later. And then what happened was Brooke came down for vacation. We went to San Diego to meet my mom and my sister at SeaWorld. We were going to meet them at SeaWorld. And so we pull in the SeaWorld parking lot, and there's my sister and my mom, and who's that person in the front seat next to my sister? It's Sherry. So my sister invited her, and we spent the day wandering around SeaWorld and doing our thing there. And then I think it was the next night, my sister had us back over, and we had a cookout or whatever, and Kathy was in my sister's living room, and my sister always had music on, so Kathy decided that she wanted to dance, so she was trying to con me into dancing, and finally did. And then I still don't know the reason why. I tried to figure it out. And of course, with Kathy's dementia, I wasn't able to ask her for a long time. But for some reason that night, she was chasing me around my sister's house. And my sister's living room, front entry, family room, kitchen. It was kind of cute, but. That came later, I guess. So we dated initially, and I took her on her first Harley ride. I had a Harley at the time, and so I think that was it for her. She was hooked. So took her on her Harley ride, and we used to go, actually, we lived in Southern California in Lake Elsinore, and we used to take the Harley almost every year and go out to Laughlin, Nevada on the Colorado, and they had this end of April called the Harley River Run. It's like a mini version of Sturgis, and Harleys all lined up along the casinos on the river, and we'd go out there and listen to music and hang out and whatever. So we were fortunate enough to have the ability to travel a lot. We went to Hawaii many times, went to, when we got married, we went to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico for our honeymoon. And we've been to Packer games and Charger games in San Diego, and Hawaii and Phoenix and Vegas and Miami Beach and Nashville and probably a million others. We love going to music places and music events, and I've been that way kind of all my life. And I know Kathy has too. Kathy was a huge Rolling Stones fan. Her and her best friend would, anytime they were in Southern California, they would go to the Stones concert. And but we saw, and our music tastes have been pretty eclectic. I like country, I like jazz, I like rock and roll, and kind of everything in between. So our first concert was actually Keith Urban at the House of Blues in Anaheim. And yeah, that was the first time I ever seen Keith Urban, and it was pretty awesome. We saw Toby Keith, Aerosmith. We used to go to in Temecula, they had a bunch of wineries, and they had this Thornton Winery out there that had a jazz concert series every year, and they always had acoustic alchemy there. And so we went, I wrote them down, we went in 2005, 2007, 2008, 2010, and then probably a couple of them that we didn't have collector wine glasses from. One of the things that we both shared that was very special to both of us, to me, it was one of the best things I ever did in my life was we went with the church group out in Lake Elsinore, and there was 50 of us that were all 55 plus seniors, boomers, and we went on a tour, Holy Land tour in Israel, and it was just incredible. We had a replica boat that we went out on, and it was just our group, our 50, and they had a organ player and a guitar player, and they were singing in Hebrew and in English, and I lost it. It was phenomenal. And then we both got rebaptized in the Jordan River too, so special times. But I think I'll stop at that. Vanessa, you wanna? Yeah.
So I'm kicking off the next phase of the program, which is other folks coming up and sharing their special memories. And I got this from my mom, Cindy, who's back home in Miami Beach. And so I'm going to read it. This is my mom, Cindy, talking. Kathy was always a hoot. She used that word a lot. Whenever someone made her laugh, she would say that they were a real hoot and start laughing. I will always remember her laugh. It was contagious. She would always get everyone in the room laughing. Our daughters were also best friends and were in the same theater program at school. And Kathy was always the one clapping and cheering the loudest. I think it's true. I remember being a little, I think you were embarrassed, and I was like, yeah. One night, Kathy took the girls, that would have been Sherry and I, out toilet papering. It only happened once, I swear. And the song Born to Be Wild was playing on the radio. The girls had a blast. Now, I remember, this is me saying, I thought it was like Depeche Mode, not Born to Be Wild, right?
Yeah.
Depeche Mode and like black clothing and really red lipstick.
For sure.
Yeah.
It was the time.
And yeah, exactly. And that we didn't get caught.
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
And she drove the whole
And she
time.
drove, yeah,
She was
all
full
over.
in.
I mean,
She
we
was
literally
all
were like 45 minutes away from the house to go toilet paper.
in. Yeah, she was all in. She was so excited.
Totally. Kathy was a great sport and took joy in our antics, for sure. As a nurse, she was always helping others, as was mentioned, and as a caregiver, she worked for quite a long time, and she even worked for a program that tested new drugs to help people with Alzheimer's. There were a few years that we would meet up and walk every day for 5 miles, and then sit in the jacuzzi and drink champagne and eat potato chips and talk about everything. We were together a lot, and then one day she met my brother. I think it was love at first sight. I remember them dancing the two-step in my living room. I am so thankful that she married him. He was always so loving, caring, and attentive during her long illness. It was recommended that she be admitted to a care facility, but my brother refused. He told me that no one would take care of her like he would. She was my dear and special friend and sister, and I will always hold a special place in my heart for her. I pray that she is healthy and happy and at peace and without pain in heaven, and laughing, dancing that two-step, and listening to country music with all the people in heaven who love her. Thank you, Mom. So, would anyone like to come up and share a special memory or thought about Kathy? Don't be shy.
Okay. Anybody? Okay. It looks like Bruce is coming up. Rich, I'm going to want to do that thing here shortly, but we'll let Bruce come up. And don't be shy if you want to come up. Thanks, Bruce.
My name is Bruce Hess. Me and Steve were childhood friends. And I'm going to get back to that in a little bit, but Steve came back into my life. He came back with Kathy to Wisconsin during COVID. By that time, the disease had a pretty good grip on Kathy, and she never knew who I was. But what I wanted to talk about is you had brought it up that excuse me, what I saw, what Steve did for her care and her love, his love for her, it was totally unbelievable. For his, he brought up the help that he had, but still, it was a lot of Steve, and a lot more Steve, and a lot more. I mean, I could not imagine even attempting myself to do that. One thing he said to me is that I'm a Marine and we figure out what we have to do, and he did. And it was just wonderful and amazing what you did. You're welcome. But anyways, getting back to our childhood, we had a lot of fun as kids. We did things that some people would get arrested for nowadays, and we probably should have did. Oh, wait, but Steve did get arrested.
Yeah, that's right.
One night we had this brilliant idea, since it was the middle of summer, it was so ungodly hot, that we were going to go visit the country club after hours.
Racine Country Club.
The Racine Country Club, to go for a swim. And we did. Until the cops came. And you know what? I thought I had it pretty bad. I got stuck in the bushes all night, and I was scared to death I wasn't going to leave. The mosquitoes got pretty fat that night, that's for sure. But all they seen was Steve getting escorted to a police car, and away he went. And you know what? I didn't get a chance to see him, I don't believe it was for another 48 years later. So, since I'm a real smart guy, I decided that I was never going to swim at another country club pool, that's for sure. Besides that, I don't have another 48 years left, I don't believe. But, yeah, he came back during COVID, and boy, we've had some good stories to share. We had such a wonderful childhood. We really did. I mean, boy, we had the parks there. We had the quarry there. For those of you that know that ever seen quarry, and just so many other things in life as kids. You know, I mean, it was so sweet and so special. You know, there was a thing that I seen on Facebook a couple of days ago, and it said to the effect that one day you're walking down the street as a child with your friend, and the next thing you know, you're an adult with childhood memories, which I have a lot. That's all I have. I don't know if somebody else wants to come up.
Thanks, Bruce. And at the Racine Country Club, when I got busted and put in the cop car, I told them, but I'm going to the Marine Corps in a week. And they let me go. Okay, I think we're... Oh, I got one other thing that I wanted to say, and then... No, not yet, but I'm going to have a song that I want you to listen to. It's kind of goofy, kind of fun, kind of cute, but... So, years ago, me and Kathy have talked several times over about what we wanted to do when we passed away, and we both wanted to be cremated and taken to, because we went to Hawaii quite a bit, go to a beach that we happened to find. It's about 15 miles out of Waikiki on the northeast side, and it was way back in this residential area. And if you didn't work hard to figure it out and get back there, you wouldn't know it was there. And we'd go back to that beach there, and I think it was called Kilui. Anyways, I wrote it down with a little summary here, but never mind. Anyhow, I'm gonna take her ashes and take them out in the water there and sprinkle her ashes there, and my daughter's gonna do the same for me when that day comes. And me and Kathy have talked about this for a while, and it wasn't until maybe a couple of years ago when I ran across this song, and I don't even remember how I ran across it, but this song kind of says it all. Go ahead.
Someday when I die, you're gonna cry, but hopefully I will be on up in the sky. Now don't spend my money on a box and a hole. That might be my body, but that ain't my soul. Put your feet in the sand, buy you a coat, raise it on up, crack a good joke, tiptoes in the water and ashes to sea. When I die, go to Hawaii on me. Have the time of your life, go ahead and blow it on out. Have a big party at a big penthouse overlooking the bay of Waikiki. Yeah, when I die, go to Hawaii on me. Put your feet in the sand, buy you a Coke, raise it on up, crack a good joke. Tiptoes in the water and ashes to sea. When I die, go to Hawaii on me. I made a good living, I lived a good life.